Hey guys, Faxi Nadu here. Today we're going to take a look at the Clavia Nord Lead 3. Some of you that know me know that I'm not really a big fan of the Nord Lead 2. I don't know why. Everybody that makes similar music to the music that I make, techno and trance, seem to really love the Nord 2. But I had it twice in the studio and it's nice, but I didn't really get it. So now we have a Nord Lead 3, and this is borrowed from my friend, courtesy of Manny Zagri, that I make some music with him as well. So thanks Manny for letting us have a look at the synth. And I gotta say that from my very first impressions, I'll say it right away, it's a different machine than the Nord Lead 2. It's akin to, you know, the modular G1 and the modular G2. That whole difference in the tone of sound is very apparent in this machine as well. It sounds very much like a G2 to me. But before we get into that, let's back up a little bit and let's take a look at just the box itself, the machine, the build. So the exterior itself is rugged enough. You know, it's if you know the Nord Lead 2, it was built like a tank, so it's similar to it. This is the keyboard version. It also comes in a rack version, which is basically everything except the keyboard and the modulation and the pitch bend, and we'll get into that in a second. So on the keyboard version we have 4 octaves. The keyboard is nice enough. It's maybe not the best thing in the world, but as someone that isn't a pianist making electronic music, it's definitely good enough. I don't really notice a big difference as far as the packaging and the keyboard itself between this and the Nord Lead 2. Pretty much to me it's similar, no big difference in the way it feels. Where you do see a big difference is the knobs themselves. Before we get into the synthesis, just the knobs themselves, the plastic. There's two things. The first thing is a technical thing. They're, you know, endless encoders, so you always see where you are. And usually, I don't know, I don't like the feel of endless encoders. For example, on the Dave Smith Mofo, I didn't like it very much, but here it feels nice. It's musical and it works well. You know where you are and you actually see where you are, and it does feel right. It does play right. But the thing about the knobs is they're very, I don't know, kind of iffy. They look like they could really easily get ruined, you know. They're kind of hanging like on the machine. I don't know. The knobs themselves, I've seen way sturdier stuff. This looks like it could. It's much less sturdy than the Nord Lead 2, I'm sure. If you're gigging with it, like if you have a Nord Lead 2 rack, it's really hard to ruin that. But this, I think, just by the look and the feel of the knobs, I think it could get ruined much easier. So to me, this is much more of something that you would keep in the studio, especially if you look at the rack. The rack is really exposed. It doesn't have the keyboard, and the knobs are all, I don't know, it's just an accident waiting to happen if you take it away from the house. But so that's the build quality. It's not bad, okay. It's good for the studio. It's really great. It looks great and everything. So let's get a little bit to where this differs from the Nord Lead 2 before we get into the sound itself. On the surface, the layout is similar, but there are fundamental differences. If you look, the first difference that you could see is that on the Nord Lead 2 you had LFO1 and LFO2 would be your arpeggiator, and on the Nord Lead 3 they actually free the second LFO, so you have LFO1, LFO2, and the arpeggiator is over here. You can turn it on, and the parameters are set aside. The arpeggiator and the LFO are no longer connected, so you don't have to sacrifice an LFO for an ARP. So that's one thing that is immediately noticeable. The second thing is the filter types and the way the filter and the envelopes behave. I won't get deep into it. For one of the reasons is that I haven't gotten that deep into it myself. There's just many options here, and you can get many different tones with the filters and the way the filter behaves here. And so it's a little bit more elaborate than the Nord Lead 2 in this regard. And another major difference is the OS section. It's been really redone. You have now FM and shape on both OSCs, and it's just the way the oscillator behaves is different, and there are different modes for the oscillators, different modes of interaction between them. If you remember on the Nord Lead 2, so you had the sync and you had the FM mode, and here you have just more modes that do involve FM and sync between the oscillators, but in different ways. So you have just by the OSC section being this much more developed and this much more interactive, and the filter being the way it is here with a lot more options, already it gives you a much wider basic palette that this thing can do. So just the sound types are really, really wide. You can do a lot of things. Now if you get to the quality itself, so the Nord Lead 2 was really known for cutting the mix, you know, being really harsh and cold, and some people like that. For me, it was kind of like the bad kind of digital, you know. It was just really, I don't know, it didn't tingle my ears. It was just raw sounds, and whatever I did, I seemed to come up with, everything sounded the same to me. Even if it was a totally different patch, like a pad and an FM twerp, it was just like, that's a Nord Lead 2, harsh, whatever. I don't know. Personally, I couldn't connect. Here, I do find it a lot more mellower, a lot more liquid. Again, going back, it really, really reminds me of the sound of the G2. Because it's actually, basically it's the engine of the G2 that is actually like a hardwired patch. It's exactly what it is. So it's much more lush, it's much more liquid, it's much more, it's much smoother, and it has less of that overall huge gain the Nord Lead 2 seemed to have. Like it would scream no matter what you would do, and you could never tame it and get something sweet out of it, at least for me. I guess maybe some of you could, but the point is here, it's much easier to get those sweet sounds, and you could still get those gnarly FM psychedelic trance sounds as well. So it does all that as well. So again, lots of knobs. All your parameters are right in front of your face. The ones that are not in front of your face, it's a little bit more developed again than the Nord Lead 2. It's a little bit easier to get to the, you know, to the system parameters and to actually program layers and all of that. It's a little bit less cryptic. Still, it's not perfect. You still got to fiddle around, but if you get to know the synth, I'm sure it gets easier because you do have a lot of controls by actually pressing knobs and buttons. You don't have to really go that deep into the menus. So let's take a little bit of a look at the sound of this machine. There's not much you could tell. I guess you couldn't tell the sound quality from this phone, obviously, but I might be able to show you a little bit of the palette and what kind of sets this synth apart from others, like what it can do. So let's take, I fiddled through the presets, and I've just found something that I think is a good example to typify what this machine can do and how diverse it can get just by using one preset and playing different types of things and manipulating it just a little bit in different ways. We're not going to go that deep. Okay, so first example, I'm just going to hold a note, and different velocities are triggering the filter. It's very nice. And you can already hear, maybe even with the phone, you can hear that the tone is very deep, very lush. You can hit the arpeggiator. That's good. So this will be one sound that you could do with this preset, and we can move them in a totally different direction. And if you notice here, on this sound, I got the resonance pretty high up, and on the Nord Lead 2, for example, you could never really tame it. You know, it would always scream. Here you can get a really lush little. If I'm going to pull up an LFO to the filter and just get a little bit of movement on the filter, and you can hear how lush the resonance is, and how you can actually really get smooth, really nice filter, you know, movements without it breaking apart and dying like most digital, I guess some analogs as well, you know. This sounds pretty nice, it's pretty musical. So again, a nice surprise. So let's get back to this initial chord that I'm holding. Let's even take like a darker one. Really nice drone, and we still have our filter movement. I'll take off the filter movement for a second. I want to show you manipulating the oscillators, how the tone can change with the FM. So the filter's open right now all the way, and this is just by manipulating the oscillator itself. So it's the tone and the brightness and the way that oscillators interact. And I'm going to just quickly switch through the modes. So as you can see, you can get various things. Let's look for another preset because I want to show you one more thing. One of the things I like the most about the Clavia synths is the way they implement the pitch bend, which is really unique, and it doesn't just feel different to me. It just the way it behaves sounds totally different than other companies' normal, pitch bend. Because it really has a musical feel. You can get really good vibratos out of it. You can get really psychedelic little bends. So you can do all sorts of stuff. The synth is very, very versatile. It does have, on some of the presets that I've noticed, like you could get a preset like this. Which sounds rich and amazing. I was gonna say that I've also come across some pretty horrible ones, but that was just to bring across the point that it really depends how deep you get with it. The options are really great. I think another reason why some people might like the 2 over this one is also because of if you're looking for that specific type of FM gnarl sound, it's really easy and fast to recreate with the 2. While here, you would do it in the same speed, but there's just so many more intricate options, and to me it's a blessing. I would take this synth over the 2 any day. I'm actually quite impressed. It's the first time, other than the G2, that I'm actually really impressed with something from Clavia that my friends bring over. So just to conclude, it's an intuitive synth. It has a lot of parameters. The synthesis is a lot deeper than previously offered from Clavia. The build is decent, but take a look. Think twice before taking it outside of the house. Is it worth your money? I don't know. Depends for who. Depends what you're going to do with it. Depends how much you're going to pay for it. It is definitely a good machine. If I owned it, I would keep it. Will I buy one? I'm quite happy borrowing one from Manny once in a while, but if I had the cash, I don't know. I'd probably spend it elsewhere, but playing around with it a little bit has opened up my mind to this machine for sure. So have a good one. Hope this kind of helps you figure out a little bit about this machine. Watch our other videos. See you later.